Hey guys and gals, before we get started, I just wanted to take a minute to apologize for the slow video output of late. In a perfect world, I'd like to be posting at least 2 videos a week. Unfortunately, real-life family events combined with an obsession with the party conventions has had me all kinds of tied up. 50 political shades of gray, so to speak. For anyone interested, I will be doing a video on the presidential race next week. I've watched every debate, town hall, and important speech from every candidate since the primary season opened. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person alive outside of those who work in the media who can say that. So anyway, thanks for the patience, and let's get on with the show. This week, I reached out to my vast and expansive Twitter following, and I pretty much opened it up for anyone to select any topic for me to make a video. I did this for 2 reasons. 1, I wanted to make everyone who doesn't follow me on Twitter jealous. And 2, all of the videos I've got in mind either have to happen after next week or are too time consuming to happen for a few weeks. So thankfully, one of my millions of Twitter followers stepped up and helped the wolf out. When offered a chance to hear me talk about any topic under the sun, like what is the meaning of life? What are your thoughts on the female orgasm? Who really killed JFK? My faithful friend Snickerdoodles, or @BaconDoodles on Twitter, posted this. How about virtue signaling and why it's a detriment to everything from a movement to government? My first reaction was disappointment because I really felt like I had something truly great to offer to the conversation of female orgasms. My second reaction was elation that someone actually responded. Honestly, I have a very small active Twitter following, and I was afraid I would get left hanging out to dry. My third reaction was frustration at having to do a video on a topic that I had spent exactly 0 seconds of my life thinking about. I spend my time on YouTube claiming a moral and logical high ground after all. I like to think I'm pretty virtuous, and so anytime I heard the phrase virtue signaling, I just shrugged and moved on. But I had a deal to uphold, and if nothing else, I am a wolf of my word. So, the first thing I had to do was look up the definition of virtue signaling. When I started to really think about it, I began to see the differences between someone being a virtuous person and someone signaling to their personal virtue. I realized that I had virtue signaled quite a few times in my life, putting the rainbow and French flag overlays over pictures on Facebook, for example. Letting the world know that I stood in solidarity with people who I didn't know on any level. And to be honest, I think that this is how most virtue signaling works. For the most part, I believe that it is an innocent, subconscious thing that has little to no effect on the world at large. Innocuous to everyone outside of the few people who find it extremely irritating. Even when people signal their virtue in a debate online, I think it benefits the opponent who has the opportunity to point out the virtue signal more than the person doing the virtue signaling. No one likes a white knight. Not feminists, not anti-feminists, and not even other white knights. These are the people we grow up to despise. When they virtue signal, all they're doing is identifying themselves as the sort of people who we should avoid. But despite all of that, the issue does go deeper. For the sake of example, I'd like to identify the largest virtue signaler, in my opinion, in the public eye today. The person who I thought of when I read the definition of virtue signaling. Paul Feig. Paul Feig started out as an actor and moved on to become a famous writer, producer, and director in Hollywood. Actually, in studying up for this video, I came to realize that he acted in one of my favorite movies back in the 90s, Heavyweights. For a solid 5 minutes, my mind was... Then, at some point around the time that he directed the movie Bridesmaids, which I thought was very good the first time I saw it, but felt that it really didn't hold up the second time around. Paul Feig decided to make it his mission to show the world that women are funny. And more than that, he wanted to make sure the world understood that women are funnier than men. So movie after movie, The Heat, Spy, I like Jason Statham in it, and now Ghostbusters 2016. Feig has written and or directed movies with only female leads. And despite the fact that his motivation for this could be attributed to his own sexism, Feig will be the first to tell you that anyone who questions his motives is a misogynist. That's how the really good virtue signaling works, after all. Not only does it show how virtuous the person is, Paul Feig, warrior for women, but it also instantly labels anyone who calls it out as a sexist or a racist or a homophobe, etc. Now, I won't watch the new Ghostbusters film, despite the original being one of my all-time favorites. I wanted to. I was going to. I had every intention of watching the movie, good or bad, all the way up to and after watching the first trailer, which looked absolutely abysmal. I'll share with you something about myself that might be a little embarrassing, but I don't really care. I love intensely. When I love something or someone, I love so intensely that not only do I tend to see past flaws, I tend to love the flaws as much as the thing or the individual. For instance, I am a Star Wars fanatic. I fell in love with Star Wars when I was 7 years old, and I've never looked back. I've read over 70 Star Wars novels, and yes, I know what that makes me, okay? Don't judge me. All right, I'm sharing this for a reason. Anyway, I could rant for hours about the characters, planets, weapons that you've never heard of. And when the prequels came out, even though I recognized that they were heavily flawed, I loved every minute of them. I still do. And then, after Disney bought Star Wars and told me that these 70 plus novels that I loved so much were not canon, and no longer applied at all on any level, well, I'll admit it, I had a tough time with that. I was emotionally traumatized. I still need trigger warnings on conversations that will involve Star Wars novels. But when I saw The Force Awakens, a movie that many people hold as imperfect on multiple levels, I loved it. I loved all of it. So when I say that I was ready, willing, and able to love the new Ghostbusters movie, you can trust that to be true. I would have come on here like Shoe on Head did on Twitter and told you that it was better than people are saying and all sorts of filthy, love-blinded things, okay? But that's never going to happen now. When Star Wars trailers started rolling out, well, okay, for starters, they were pretty freaking good, but some people panned them, right? There was that whole controversy about Finn being a black stormtrooper. Imagine if J.J. Abrams had come out and said that anyone who didn't like the trailers was a racist. I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. Not only would it have been about as unprofessional a thing to do as could be done, but imagine if you just didn't like the trailer. Suddenly, your character has been assaulted for no reason whatsoever. I know how it feels because that's exactly what Paul Feig did to me and hundreds of thousands of other Ghostbusters fans. He made a movie that had crappy trailers. The most hated trailer in YouTube history, actually. And instead of manning up and taking responsibility, his response was to blame sexism. To paint everyone who didn't like the trailer with a single broad stroke that set the tone for every discussion anyone had about the trailers and then the movie since. And he has virtue signaled himself out of responsibility for the movie's dismal performance. Because hey, women are funny. It can't be anything else but misogyny. Every movie he has made since Bridesmaids has been one virtue signal after the next. Look at me, I'm Paul Feig. I only work with female leads because women are superior. I dare you to say otherwise, you misogynist shitlords. I can tell you right now that not only will I never watch the new Ghostbusters movie, but I will never watch another Paul Feig directed, produced, written, or acted movie for the rest of my life. I am not going to stand by and have my character assassinated because some asshole thinks he's better than me and you and everyone else. I won't support him, not monetarily, and certainly not with my time or emotions. Well, beyond this, okay? I know I'm getting emotional. You're all right. Just leave me alone. Oh, man. So what does this mean? What does this matter? Still, in general, who cares? Virtue, by definition, is a good thing. Being virtuous is and always has been a signifier of goodness. When someone virtue signals, they are signaling virtue. They are signaling something that is objectively good. Women are funny. You have to agree with that sentiment because there have been countless funny women. It is a fact. No one is really arguing it outside of the people who are just trying to fight bullshit with bullshit. So because the signal is pointing out virtue, and it is usually a statement that people agree with, most people are fine with it. Most people agree. Most people take no issue whatsoever with the virtue signaling to begin with. And that is how things are changed. The problem with virtue signaling, especially when it comes to people in the public eye like celebrities and politicians, is the need or lack thereof for a virtue to be signaled, and the implications of why that virtue is being pointed out. Why is Paul Feig saying women are funny? Is someone saying that women aren't funny? Wow, if someone is saying that women aren't funny, I guess there's a lot of sexism out there that I just didn't notice before. Suddenly, overnight, the narrative that people think women aren't funny hits the news and begins to shape thoughts. It seeps into the minds of normal people who generally have no clue of what is really happening in our society. Even if only subconsciously you're walking by a TV that is on talking about the sexism of people who didn't like a Ghostbusters trailer, you're doing something else entirely. Without even knowing it, the idea that people who dislike the trailer are sexist has just invaded your mind. A sexist inception, so to speak. Then, when you're watching a presidential debate, suddenly the things that Hillary spews out of her mouth make a little more sense. Suddenly, there's something to this whole sexism thing. Next thing you know, America is joining the EU and we're all getting raped by radical Islamic terrorists. So yeah, guys, virtue signaling is messed up. Let's try to avoid doing it, shall we? A special thanks again to Snickerdoodles, aka @BaconDoodles on Twitter, for suggesting the topic of this video. If you would like to suggest a topic someday, feel free to follow me on Twitter. But if you don't want to see constant rants about the Democratic Convention, maybe wait until next week. Thank you so much for watching. If you care about my ego or simply want to help my channel out, please subscribe or hit the like button on the video. If you're a hate watcher who just wants to see me fail, poo on you. Holla at you later.